Hi, my name is Ethan, and my project is enhancing student laboratory skills with question-embedded technique videos. So to start, you might be asking, why target laboratory skills? Laboratory skills are a key outcome of undergraduate teaching labs here at BU and otherwise. These labs typically encourage direct practice of the skill, but they leave out a very important part of conceptual understanding. Typically, conceptual understanding is we get from our pre-labs, which are they take a long time, they're very difficult to schedule, both for instructors and students, and this means they have very limited scalability. This represents a gap in our skills education. So next, you might be asking, what are question-embedded videos? Question-embedded videos are a special type of educational video where, as the name implies, they have embedded questions. If you've ever seen or done an ed puzzle, it's kind of like that, with questions embedded in the middle. So question-embedded videos have been shown to completely reduce students at an unsatisfactory level of understanding for chemistry concepts, and have been shown to reduce cognitive load and promote active learning. Next, you might be asking, why would we use question-embedded videos to teach laboratory skills? So, undergraduate teaching laboratories are very similar in structure to flipped classrooms, which is a setting that question-embedded videos have been demonstrated to be particularly effective in. Additionally, videos are highly scalable and allow enhanced technique demonstration as compared to pre-labs or other educational methods. Finally, question-embedded videos have been shown to specifically improve conceptual understanding, which is the gap in skills education that we want to target. So, based on this, we developed three research questions. So first, do question-embedded videos improve participant outcomes? Second, do question-embedded videos improve participant self-reported knowledge, experience, and confidence? And finally, do participants perceive question-embedded videos as better than traditional learning methods? So to do this, I designed a randomized control experiment. So first, I designed an experimental protocol involving micropipetting and serial dilution, techniques that are used in biochemistry, but not often in lower level classes. So these protocols were designed so that they were difficult, so as to emphasize differences between groups, but not so difficult as to make sure that nobody would be able to complete them. So next, I actually designed, recorded, and produced 3 different question-embedded videos, one on micropipetting, one on serial dilution, and one on serial dilution calculations. So I designed the scripts, and then from those, I recorded the question-embedded videos, and I adapted the scripts into the written protocol such that both groups had the exact same information, just in different forms. So during the actual experiment, I collect a number of different metrics. During the pretest, I get their GPA, their confidence, experience, and knowledge scale, and the MLI, which is the Meaningful Learning in the Lab Index, which is an index for cognitive, affective, and effective skills for prior lab experiences, which will affect their outcomes in lab. So during the actual experiment, I collect their equipment choice, so what equipment they choose to use and how they choose to use it, including any mistakes they make, the rationale for choosing that equipment, their absorbances, and their concentrations, which are measured outcomes. In post-test, I take the same confidence, experience, and knowledge scale, and additionally, I collect their perceptions on their assigned learning method. So before we actually did any data analysis, we had to confirm that our groups were not different pre-test. So we separated our students into 2 random groups, our question-embedded video group and our control group, both n equals 11. We found that there were no significant differences pre-test between GPA, MLI, and self-reported knowledge, experience, and confidence, showing that our groups were very similar prior to treatment. So during treatment, we saw gains in confidence and knowledge for students using question-embedded videos. You can see that our controls in red, while our question-embedded videos are in blue. We can see that our average is a lot higher, and notably, we can see a very decreased variation for the QEV students as compared to the control. This implies that our question-embedded videos were better able to target students at a lower level of understanding and raise them up post-test, resulting in this decreased variation. Notably, we don't see as much of a difference for experience because we wouldn't expect experience, which is a metric that's across all their previous experiences, to change very much after a single intervention. So looking at the same data in a different way, we saw that on average, our QEV students had a higher change in their confidence and knowledge. So the greatest change in things they hadn't worked with before, such as working with protein or enzyme solutions. But for all of our categories, we saw our QEV students having a higher average change. Suggests that, again, they were better. So further, we saw that our QEV students made fewer and less significant mistakes in the control group. You can see that they made less total mistakes, fewer major mistakes, and much fewer minor mistakes as compared to the control group. So we also saw direct improvements in the quality of outcomes for QEV students. Here you can see the standard averages of the standard curves they constructed during the experiment. You can see our QEV group in blue has smaller deviations by the error bars as compared to the control group in red. You can see these are big, while these are all small. Additionally, we saw direct improvements in the actual value, or the slope of the standard curve. So we saw that our QEV students had a better standard curve closer to the reference value. This is just a zoomed-in version of the previous graph. You can see directly that at our lower concentrations, where we would expect to see the lowest error, our QEV students had lower error in compared to our control group. Additionally, if you look at these two dots that are at the same position on the x-axis, these were two different solutions produced via different methods. You can see that our QEV students have very good agreement between both the concentration and the standard deviation for these. On our control group, we can see they're very different, both in deviation and in the actual value, showing that our QEV student, our control group, didn't do as good here, and the QEV students were better. So we again saw other metrics improve. So these are the R-squared for ideal and actual concentrations. The R-squared is a measure of linearity, with a 1.0 being perfectly linear, and that's what we would expect for this type of data. So we can see for our ideal concentrations, our QEV group did a lot better, being a lot closer to 1. You can see our average is low, but our QEV group is high. Additionally, we saw lower variations among each group, showing that our QEV group was better. What we saw with our confidence, that we raised up the amount of students who had a lower level of understanding and performance, resulting in our lower deviation. So we saw that even though our QEV students did better in our recorded metrics, that they actually thought that, in terms of their learning methods, they thought they were about the same in terms of usefulness to them and preparing them for the experiment. Notably, we saw that in terms of content amount, or how much content they thought, our QEV students thought that their videos had the perfect amount, while the control group thought that they actually had too much info. This is a very interesting result, because the QEV group actually had extra content as compared to the control group because of the embedded questions. We saw that in terms of their perceptions about all of these different metrics, so we saw they were about equal in terms of the amount of how prepared they felt to transfer their skills, how prepared they felt going into the lab, whether they felt the materials left out info, whether they felt they were taught content they already knew, or whether they needed additional materials to learn. So in conclusion, we saw that QEVs do improve participant outcomes over traditional learning methods. We saw that QEVs do improve their self-reported knowledge, experience, and confidence. And we saw that, at least in some metrics, our participants did perceive QEVs as better than traditional learning methods, at least in terms of the amount of content they thought it had. Okay, thank you.
We're going to move on to the question portion. If anyone has any questions, we've got a few minutes.
Hello, great presentation. I have a question. Do you think, I know that your research was kind of done in like a STEM context. Do you think that this could translate to maybe humanities or social sciences in the same way, or if that's like an opportunity to like do more research on it?
I definitely think this can be translated into other contexts, because these have been demonstrated to be effective both in chemistry and physics, which of course are both STEM, but I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be applicable to other contexts or other disciplines, especially when the main effect of these is improving their conceptual understanding of the skill.
The question about did you feel prepared, was there like the opposite question, like did you feel unprepared, or was it only a prepared, like did you feel prepared question?
So what I tried to do with the questions is that we had that preparedness question, and then we also had other questions that targeted the same idea, whether like the materials left out content, so that's kind of the inverse of whether they felt prepared or whether they felt they needed more content to be able to perform it. But we didn't have a direct inverse.
The reason I ask is in active learning research, one of the big hurdles is getting the students to feel like it's the correct thing to do, even though there's tons of empirical research that says it's better. There's also research that says that the students don't think it's better.
Yeah, that's exactly what we saw here, that even though empirically they did a lot better than the control group, they didn't feel like they did a lot better. The only effect we saw is that they thought that the content amount was closer to what they wanted from it, which is a really interesting result in itself, showing that they don't really know what's good for them.
I have a question. I'm curious, since you produced all of these videos, were you consulting with any like film and TV professors to create all of that, or how did you put those together?
Yeah, so the videos were designed over the summer for Europe. The scripts were produced with the help of my advisor. I produced them, he edited them. They were recorded with the help of the Center for Digital Learning and Innovation. But yeah, we didn't directly consult any film and TV professors, but we did have the expertise from the folks at the Center for Digital Learning and Innovation in terms of the actual recording and editing of the videos. Good, thank you.